Okay, good evening, class. Welcome all of you to the BSE 534 Legislation Aspects of Fire Safety Management. I'm Gigi Lui, and you can call me Gigi or Dr. Lui. And in fact, these subjects have been taught by me for many years, and I have been teaching in this department for 24 years. Okay. And last year, I stepped down from the program leadership of the Master of Science in Fire and Safety Engineering, but still I'm working in the department as senior lecturer. Okay. And this subject, I'm responsible for the administration of the subject delivery, and also being one of the lecturers in the subject. And so I'm the subject examiner and also the lecturer. We have another lecturer, Dr. Huang, okay, Yuki, and thank you, who is also responsible for another half of the lectures to be delivered to you in this semester. Okay, now I'm going to share the screen. Screen share. So I want the slides. Okay, I think all of you or most of you are familiar with the Blackboard, which is the learning management system, which is a platform that allows students to get, say, teaching materials like the teaching schedule, lecture notes, and also have the video link, okay, for the lectures. Okay, so in fact, these subjects will be delivered on Mondays evenings, as in this classroom. And I will spend about half an hour to introduce the teaching arrangement of this subject in this semester, and then followed by the lecture 1, okay, which is an introduction to the fire safety regulations and fire safety management with a review, okay. So as you may notice that the subject name is legislation aspects. So it relates to some regulations, some legislations, and codes of practice, etc. Okay, and for the second lecture, I will try to talk about the principle of fire safety standards and fire safety management plans. Okay, as you may know, locally we have the buildings department with the codes of practice for fire safety in buildings 2011, which have a section on the fire safety management, and we have the plans that is related. The third lecture will be the codes review and performance-based fire codes. Okay, in the code of practice, we have the codes requirement, and we base on the prescriptive codes for the design of some basic, say, or standardized nature of the buildings, whereas the performance-based fire codes will be usually for some, say, new buildings with new architectural features. We may have the large atrium, deep underground stations like those for the mass transit railway stations, etc. Okay, we also have super tall buildings. So all these may not be able to follow the prescriptive codes for the design. Okay, and we may have the performance-based fire code. Performance-based fire code part 2 will be on week 4, semester week 4, 22nd of September. And lecture 5 will be the human behavior. So we need to pay attention to the response and the behavior of the human. As we may know, life safety is one of the most important fire safety objectives to be achieved. And how the crowd movement and evacuation in fire will be studied. Okay. Now, on the 6th of October, there will be no lectures because of the Chinese Mid-Autumn Festival, okay, which is on Monday, and the day following the Mid-Autumn Festival on Tuesday. So we assume that, or according to the academic calendar. So if you try to search, just let you know, if you try to search PolyU AC, you will get the academic calendar easily. Okay. So this also helps students, especially you are new to the programs, to note it for the 16th and okay, this is 24, 25th, sorry. 26, 25 and 26, okay? So we have the Chinese Mid-Autumn Festival with all evening class suspended, okay? No class on the 6th Monday, okay? Although it is not in red color, which is not a public holiday, but the evening class is suspended. So this is a special arrangement. Okay. After that will be Dr. Huang's class. Okay, which she will mention about the application of fire safety engineering principle to fire safety design and management. So for fire engineering approach, okay, or application of the fire engineering principles to different, say, fire safety design of the buildings management will be followed. Risk analysis and assessment in FSM. FSM is acronym of the fire safety management, which you used to find many abbreviations or acronyms in the subject. Okay, so from time to time you will be taught, or we will have some acronyms. The fire safety management in other developed countries, so not only the legislation aspects of fire safety management in Hong Kong, but also in some developed countries like the United States of America, United Kingdom will be mentioned. Okay. Lecture 9, Fire Safety Management and Regulations for Special Buildings. As I've mentioned, we have some, say, latest design with, for example, the Hong Kong airport, international airport, or the, say, the sports stadium and sports hall, etc. Okay, in Kowloon City. And these are some special buildings that we need to apply the performance-based fire codes, and there are some management and regulations governing this type of buildings. For the class contact, okay, total 36 hours. Although 13 weeks, we do not have a lecture on week 6. So 36 hours, which is 3 times 12, including 27 hours of lectures. And we also have seminars and revision. Seminars will be delivered in week 11, 12, and suppose 13 also. At the moment, there are about 92 students registered for this class. So I think around half of you are here in the class tonight. Okay. But I understand that you need to work full time and may not be able to arrive on time in some days. So I understand the situation. And in fact, if you have overtime work that you cannot come back, you can also take the video recording for a review in the Zoom, okay? Well, we used to have the Blackboard Collaborate Ultra as the means to take recordings, but now we are having Zoom. So similar steps you will need to take to get the videos, but I will try to copy the link to the content for you to access to it. Okay. Hopefully, I do not set any password, but if in case needed, you email me or try to let me know so I can try to download the video and then let you access it more easily. Okay. Now, in fact, this subject, legislation aspects of fire safety management, have some objectives for students. Okay. So we've mentioned about the schedule already, but what you are going to learn in this subject is listed in the objectives and intended learning outcomes. Okay, so we aims to provide you a legislation knowledge with respect to fire safety management, as the name implies. So you may learn some regulations which is related to fire safety management, fire service installation, and some recommended practice, okay, for buildings of different usage or different design, okay. In older days, the building or the premises are usually rectangular, okay, but as times goes by, more architectural features with, say, dome-shaped roof or large space or atrium and large span, which across several 100 meters, etc., will be designed. Okay, so in those types of buildings, we can no longer just follow the types of or the usage of the building or the premises according to the code of practice, but we need to have some engineering approach, okay, to design some suitable services, fire services, and fire safety systems for buildings of different usage. Furthermore, integration with fire safety for buildings as a whole need to be considered. Okay, we have some hardware like the active fire services installations. We may have sprinkler heads, we may have hydrant, hose reels, some alarm guns, alarm system, detectors may be present, okay, in the building. Whereas we also have the passive design, which is the more structural related, that is the partition walls, column, beams, etc. Okay, and we need to make sure the number of occupants should not exceed a certain limit. Okay, we have the occupant load factor, and also the fire load, the amount of combustibles present inside the premises have to be considered within a certain level. Say we used to have the fire load density limit of 1,135 megajoule per meter square, as listed also in the regulations, the code of practice. So comparison with overseas regulations and the use of statistical record to improve provisions of fire safety services and management strategies will be discussed. So these are the objectives for the subject. Okay. So upon completing this subject, you will have a clear understanding of the legislation knowledge with respect to fire safety management. Okay. And you will understand how the regulations related to the fire services. You will appreciate recommended practice for buildings having different usage. You may have the commercial purpose, like office buildings, residential purpose, the domestic ones. You may have airport, railway terminals, and other sophisticated usage. Integration with the fire safety building as a whole, so both hardware and the software with fire safety management as some strategies and elements to monitor how the hardware is being maintained in good condition, okay, have to be noted. So we need to have good maintenance, and we need to have the staff being well trained, and also we need to have the fire action to be taken during fires, okay? So we also understand the merits, the pros and cons, the limitations of existing prescriptive fire safety code. Okay, so for the prescriptive fire code, it is those already written down according to framework. Okay, for certain types of building, for example, commercial building, higher than or with more than 30 meter tall in height, and we regard it as high-rise commercial building. And we also have the code of practice to list the provision of fire safety systems in the codes to follow. Okay, whereas the performance-based code will be a different story. Last but not least, improve the provision and management strategies. So some minor or detailed steps to monitor and maintain the fire safety, having the prevention, fire prevention, and also the fire actions to be taken, and is important. Okay. Now, after the intended learning outcomes, I would like to talk about the assessment. Okay, some of you say focusing on the assessment requirement. So we have two components. One is the continuous assessment, which consists of 40%. The other is the examination. According to the academic calendar, you will note that the examination will be held on the 4th to 19th of December. Okay, so during these days, please stay in Hong Kong. Okay, try to have the examination to be held usually in hall. Okay, or some large premise in Poly U. And for the continuous assessment, there will be two. Okay, one is individual assignment, and the other is group assignment. Okay, or group seminar with presentation and submission of slides and individual reflection. Okay, so for the individual assignment, okay, according to the schedule, I've already listed the release of the topic, which is in week 3. So some of you may say, why week 3? Okay, as you may know, during week 1 and week 2, it is the add-drop period. Okay, I would like all of the students settled before the topic is being released. Okay, so the topic will be let you know by 15th of September. Okay, so if you want to stay in the subject, you are most welcome. Okay, and by 15th, we will try to let you know the topic. Okay, kind of a case study. Okay, and at the same time, I will try to collect group list. Okay, 3 to 5 students. If you have 6 students, please split it into 2 groups. Okay, so 3 to 5 students per group. You can send me, or later we will have teaching assistants for this subject probably, or even CC Dr. Wang, okay, as she will have the seminar presentation with you. And maybe I will join, okay? That will be decided further. Now, so about a month's time, you may have the submission deadline for assignment 1 on the 13th of October. Okay, so each of you will have the same duration for knowing the topic and then submit the assignment. And for the release of assignment 2, that is the seminar topic, we will also release it on the 13th of October. So I try to not to have an overlap of the assignment topics so that you may submit one and then know another one on the same date. For the seminar presentation, 92 students. If you have attended my subjects in previous semester, you may know for large classes, we may not be able to allow too much time for students to present. Maybe for a group of 3 students, we may allow 6 minutes for presentation plus 3 minutes of Q&A section. Okay. And for 5 students, we may have 10 minutes of presentation or 5 minutes for Q&A, etc. So more details will be released in week 7 by Dr. Wang. Okay. And so we assume that week 11 and 12 will be the seminar presentation. Just in case you have some business trip, okay, during week 11, please, when you form groups or when you know the date for your business trip, try to let us know that you are not available in week 11, but maybe week 12 is more suitable for you. Okay. I think, of course, you need to submit the proof for our approval or for our record. Okay. And so for the assignment 2, we have the oral presentation together with submission of the slides and individual reflection. Okay. Due to the Gen AI tools, the Gen artificial intelligence tools being more popular, okay, like the ChatGPT or DeepSeek, etc. Sometimes the report may not be able to truly reflect whether the students have done the work wholeheartedly. But I believe that you may learn how to use those tools, which is a tool which helps you, say, maybe brainstorming or, well, checking grammars, etc. Okay, instead of just direct copy from those content generated. Okay. I noticed that the library will have, or the EDC may have some courses which allows or teach students how to use Gen AI tools or what is the, say, database, for example, Science Direct for references available for students. So you may pay attention to the email generated from libraries or other departments so that you may learn more skills, okay, in searching for information and using those Gen AI tools, etc. Okay. So for the oral presentation, I think the Q&A section is necessary because nowadays I may note that students may generate the slides with AI tools, have the scripts by AI tools, but during the Q&A section, it will be your own performance or knowledge to be reflected, okay? So more focus will be put in Q&A section, or even the weighting may be increased a bit, okay, on Q&A. For the individual reflection, I usually expect the students to consist of the technical content and also their uh, learning experience or kind of feeling, okay, on how the seminar is proceeded uh, according to their own way of thinking. Okay, so the individual reflection will half will be the technical content and half will be your experience in um, going the seminar process. For example, form groups, communication with groups, teamwork, and how you find information for your topics and how you organize it and how to prepare the presentation, etc. Okay, so more will be described or discussed later. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can also ask me or Dr. Wang for that. Now, for the examination, this is a legislation aspects of fire safety management subject where there are some legislation aspects which is according to the codes of practice or the standards. So we keep it as an open book examination. That means students are allowed to bring in the code of practice, some lecture notes into the examination hall with you. Okay. Any other books is also allowed. Okay, provided that you have time to flip through or read it. Okay, and you are not allowed to bring in the electronic, say, computers or laptops, etc. No, but even the phones cannot be smart ones, or the watches have to be uh, put down onto your under your chair. Okay, so just hard copy or the paper type things to be allowed to bring in, to be brought in. Students are required to answer 4 out of 6 questions. Well, more details will be let you know uh, around revision or the later part of the semester. Okay, we have a revision class. Okay, in week 13. So both Dr. Wang and me will try to go through the key points with you during the whole semester. Okay. So with reference to some reading list and we have the cooks, we have standards, British standards, for example, the buildings departments, the fire services department have cooks of practice. We also have technical guidance. We have the life safety code, okay, which is also relevant to the subject. Okay, so you may try to have a look in some of the information in the or the content of these references. Okay, so any questions about the subject arrangement? Okay. You may try to look into the subject description form, which lead you, I think, select or try to choose this subject. So objectives, intended learning outcomes are similar to what I've mentioned earlier, as stated in the teaching schedule. Okay, and you may also have some indicative syllabus or subject synopsis, which will be covered in the lectures, seminars, student seminars, okay, and examination 60%, continuous assessment 40%, as also mentioned in the assessment overview. Okay, any questions? just in case you are interested to know the format of the questions in examination, I think you'll notice that we have the past year examination database for PolyU Library. Okay, so that may be a reference. Okay. By the way, for the meeting of 3 hours, I think is a bit long for most of you. As I've mentioned, full-time, daytime work is not easy. And I do appreciate your efforts and time to come back for further study. So about an hour, every hour, I will give you a short break, maybe 5 minutes, so that you may go to wash your face or hands, etc. Okay. And this is the way that I delivered the subjects and topics to you. Okay. Okay, any questions? Thank you. Okay, so I hope it's clear, and if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Okay. So through email, my contact and office. Now, the next part will be the lecture. Okay. Okay. Now, for this lecture, it will be divided into several sections. As you can see, we will have the introduction about the fire and the law governing the fire safety legislation, etc. And usually the legislation formed after some fatal fires, especially in Hong Kong. So some local regulations, codes of practice will be mentioned. And other code standards, which refers to local regulations, will also be studied. Section 6 is other regulations related to fire safety. And finally, we have the references. Okay. Now, the purpose of fire safety legislation are firstly to preserve life. Okay. And this include ensuring safe evacuation and also rescue of the occupant, maybe by the firefighters, firemen. And also, in fact, the lives of the firemen themselves is very important. Okay, so preserve life. Okay, and this is also the foremost purpose of the fire safety legislation, to safeguard human life. It is valuable. Okay, and some laws and regulations are designed to make sure that building premises and also workplaces, office, or our residential homes, and even some public areas are constructed and maintained in ways to minimize the risk of fire-related fatality. Okay, so we do not want anyone, even one, okay, to die in fires event. And this includes some requirements for active services, fire alarms, detectors. We have the smoke detectors or heat detectors. We also have the emergency exits, as you have the exit signs with white words under green background, okay, locally in Hong Kong. And further, we may try to give warnings. Okay, for example, there's an alarm bell. Okay, which notify the occupants to evacuate in a limited time. Besides, we also have fire resistance materials, okay, which helps to elongate or delay the ignition time for the materials. Okay, for example, the fire-rated solver or the chair, and we have the painted partitions, walls, etc. And enforcing the regulations and standards, authority aims to provide the occupants with sufficient warning and safe egress routes for life safety. And the preservation of life, of course, is the highest priority. And fire accidents, although may accelerate rapidly, but with the provisions of fire safety legislation, they are important to protect lives and public safety. Now, for the prevent injury in case of fire, okay, this may be considering the fire prevention, maintain the stability of the building. Stability refers to the building which it will not collapse in case fire occur for a certain duration, an hour, 2 hours, or 4 hours. We may have the insulation, which is related to the increase in temperature, and also integrity. Okay, integrity refers to the cracks that may appear. For example, the partition have cracks during fire, and it may allow the passage of smoke or heat through the cracks from one part to the next. Now, to protect goods and building content, so some valuable goods, for example, as you can see in museums, okay, we may have valuable goods. The National Museum of Brazil was on fire in 2018, okay, and it is an enormous fire which destroyed much valuable say artwork or some others preserved materials or valuable things in the museum. Okay, so protection of goods and building content is very important, even in a library. Okay, well, of course, the books in the library nowadays may be in soft copy, but still in some libraries there are some valuable booklet or hard copies of the original scripts, okay, which is valuable. So by safeguarding the property, the fire safety laws and regulations not only protect the investment, but also contribute to the continuity of business and the overall resilience of the community. Okay, so we make sure that the business is continued, especially in, for example, the train station. If fire occur, like some arson happened years ago in the railway train, okay, it will halt it or stop the whole business, at least for that line or the lane. Sometimes further objectives of the new legislation is for the owner of the building and implements the fire safety management plan. Now, for fire safety objectives, okay, why do I quote Bolkowski and Tanaka in 1991? They are the pioneer and the first group of people who tried to define fire safety objectives for buildings. So they tried to mention that prevention of fire or retard their growth and spread is important. Okay, so three broad objectives are commonly stated. We have life safety, property protection, and also the business continuation. Okay, so according to the fire safety objectives, they may try to control the fire spread and also have the property of the combustibles and combustible items being controlled. And they also provide compartmentation, that is subdivided the premises into smaller compartments, which helps to prevent the fast growth of or fast spreading of the flame or smoke across the whole premises. They also provide suppression for fire with, for example, the fire suppression provision like sprinkler systems. Okay, they protect the occupants from fire effects, and also they minimize the impact of fire. Okay, for the action of the fire suppression system, we may consider controlling the fire, suppressing the fire, and also extinguishing the fire. So these three, in fact, will be important in considering the fire active fire services installations actions. Now, there are different aspects of fire safety. Satisfactory means of escape. Okay, so I usually let students think about the situation if a fire occurred inside this lecture theater, which route you are going to pass through. Okay, for example, depending on whether you are sitting in the aisle next to the aisle, the aisle seat next to the aisle, or you are sitting inside at the center, you need to move around and then go past the doors of this lecture theater, and then you may choose directions to J core or F core in the corridor, and then move to the lift lobby, walk down the stairs, and then go to the podium level, or even in the ground floor level. Okay, so the means of escape considered many factors. Considered with many factors. You have the corridor width, how wide is the corridor, the distance, the traveling distance is also one of the key determining the evacuation of the occupants, whether it is within a sufficient time. Fire resisting construction with stability, integrity, and insulation. Okay, I've mentioned that these three criteria is important to define the fire resisting construction, because one is related to whether the structural provision will collapse or not. If it is weighted, okay, if it is weighted and it is burned on one side, okay, whether it will collapse or not. Okay, integrity refers to the passage of flame and hot gas through cracks. Insulation relates to the ability to maintain a certain temperature, for example, 139 degrees on the other side of the wall, okay, if one side is being heated. Now, provisions of means of access, okay, for escape, it is for us, the occupant, whereas for the access is for the firefighters, the firemen. Maybe some of you are firemen, okay, or the fire officers who may know this. And the means of access provides safe route for the firemen to escape after fighting the fire or rescue the people. Okay, we may have the figure on the bottom left-hand corner. Okay, the occupant capacity, the number of occupants present inside the premises in each room may be different. The number of exits allowed it, okay, for the exit doors, exit routes, and also we have the width of the exit door, okay. Distance to travel and discharge value of the staircase, okay. The number of occupants allowed to be discharged from the stories of the building. Okay, now sufficient fire separation within the building and between adjoining building. Now for this one, we have the fire separation, which is essential to prevent the rapid spread of fire, not only within the building, but also between adjoining buildings. Especially in Hong Kong, we have large, say, population, but limited space or land, okay? The buildings are closely packed, okay? So if a fire occurred in one building, it may have a high chance that the adjacent ones will be affected. Restriction of fire and smoke spread within the concealed space, okay? So in this case, the concealed space inside the building may affect fire behavior when the fire breaks out. For example, in the compartment of origin, and this space may also be some space that is above the suspended ceiling. There may be different services. We may have ductworks, we may have cables, trays, etc. Okay, so restricting the fire and smoke spread within the concealed space in the ceiling void, the wall cavities, surface ductwork is important for effective fire safety. Okay, now some hidden area may allow the fire and smoke spread, or it may travel unattended or travel undetected. Okay, and we have restriction of fire spread over the external envelope from one building to another. A bit similar, but it is the out boundary of the building, the external envelope. Safe, satisfactory access for fire appliances and firefighter up and within the building to save lives. Okay, so this may considered providing clear and unobstructed routes for emergency vehicles, such as the fire engine, okay, which need to have the EVA, emergency vehicular access, available, okay, for those fire engine to park nearby. Now, some factors needed to be assessed, which includes the fire occurring in the first place. In the figure at the bottom, okay, on the left side, the heat and smoke spread in the open plan area easily and quickly. Okay. Whereas if it is compartmentated, confined in compartment, will be the heat and smoke, and it takes longer time for it to spread to adjacent areas. Okay, so the advantage is, of course, having more time for the occupants to evacuate. Okay, whereas suffocation or blocking of the view of the exits may be resulted in open plan areas. Fire severity also based on fire loads of the building. Now, for the fire load, it refers to the amount of combustibles present in the premises. Okay. Structural resistance. Okay, we may have the walls. Okay, exit doors, which helps to prevent the spreading of smoke or heat from one to another areas. Potential risk of fire to people in and about the building. Okay, so this is also important. Now, some measures can be applied. So we may have adequate methods of fire prevention. Now, the goal of fire prevention is to educate the public, okay, to take appropriate actions and take precautions to prevent fire to start. And if we have adequate fire prevention method, they may help to reduce the likelihood of the fire starting. Okay. Now, it includes the regular maintenance of the electrical systems, not to burden or try to have extra loading to the sockets. We may need to have safe storage of flammable goods, materials, liquids, etc. And we also try to implement the strict housekeeping practices so that some ignition sources, such as the neck flame or cigarette ends or matches in the past or lighters, okay, maybe sources of ignition, should be eliminated. We also have warning of fire, okay. We try to divide the area into different zones. We have zone evacuation or phased evacuation. So those zones nearer to the point of origin of fire will evacuate first, whereas the outer perimeter areas will evacuate at a later stage. And we may also try to divide the evacuation into different phases so that some of the people will have to leave the premises at quick manner. Okay. We also have control of smoke movement. Okay. So this includes the maintenance of the safe evacuation routes and also reduce the harm to the occupants. As smoke is the major killer in fires for the occupants, they may try to lead suffocation of the occupants. When the people inhale in smoke, they may have difficulty in breathing, and they may get fainted, or even death. Okay. Another effect of smoke is affecting their visibility. Okay. As hot smoke rises, and the people may need to crawl on the floor. We may have low-level exit signs available, and these may help the evacuation of the occupants. Utilization of active extinguishing method. Okay, we may have portable fire extinguisher, for example. People have to be well trained to use the extinguisher, which type of agent, water, CO2, or foam, okay, may be available as extinguishing methods, and which type of combustibles or fuel they should be used to extinguish the fire have to be noted. Facilities to assist the fire services. This is related to fireman lifts and stairways. Okay. Staff training. This is important. Okay. Even with sufficient provision of the fire services or extinguishers, etc., if one do not know how to use them, it is also useless. The equipment is useless. So we may have staff training, the fire safety management plan with staff training plan as one of the most important elements is related to staff training. Okay. Training program may educate the occupants to attack the fire if it is small enough. Okay. If it is a larger fire, try not to put it out, but run away. Okay. And we may have regular fire drills to be carried out so that the occupant will be familiar with the environment. okay, and know how to respond quickly, okay. They may also know what to be brought along. For example, your mobile phone, your keys, and wet towels, etc. Okay, and utilization of continuing control under other legislation. So continuing control under other legislation referring to the ongoing enforcement of the fire safety standards through various legislation framework. For example, we may have building codes, we may have laws and regulations, laws of Hong Kong, okay? And the laws also required regular inspection, maintenance, and documentation so as to ensure the compliance with the fire safety requirements. Okay, so legislation following fires, fatal fires in Hong Kong. As I've mentioned, we will have a short break after an hour. Shall we have a 5 minutes break before we continue on the second section? Any questions? Okay, it's 7:37. So we will start in 5 minutes. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Thank you. Okay, before I forget, some students would like to know the group formation. So the group will be formed by you. Okay, you find 2 to 4 more members in the class and give me the name list, give us the name list, and then we will give you give you the topics. Not yet decided whether it is an assigned topics or let you free to choose. Okay, but the first step is to form groups. Okay, in week 3 after the class have been settled with a number of students, no more ad dropped, okay, then you give me the group list and then we will try to sort it out. And why do we form groups so early? Because some students may be new to the department or new to the class. They haven't yet know any friends yet. So I may help them to form groups with others who is also having just 1 or 2 students. Okay. So this is the group formation. Another one is about the assessment. So the seminar will have the oral presentation with Q&A section, which is 10% of the marks of the subject grade. Submission of the presentation slides. Okay, I may say assume you have 5 slides for 2 minutes. So you submit the 5 slides on the blackboard, and then we will collect it. And together we'll have the individual reflection. It is about the seminar topic, not the whole subject. Okay, just the seminar topic. What you have learned from the seminar topic and how you approach to solve the problem or deal with the preparation of slides or discussion with your group members, etc. Okay. Okay. So this is what I want to amend, not amend, but a supplement. Okay. Any questions about the subject arrangement? If no, we go back to the legislation. Okay, the topic on today's Introduction to Fire Safety Regulations and Fire Safety Management Review. Now, for the legislation following fatal fires, usually in response to fatal fires that the fire caused people died, Hong Kong has enacted and amended different aspects of legislation so as to enhance fire safety and prevent future tragedies of similar type. Okay, here are some of the examples. Key legislations: Fire Services Ordinance. We have Buildings Ordinance. We have Fire Safety Building Ordinance, Fire Safety Commercial Premises Ordinance. Okay, so for Fire Services Ordinance, Chapter 95. This is actually the acronym of chapter, the laws of Hong Kong. Okay, so you can access to the e-legislation. Hong Kong e-legislation, and then you can access to different chapter. Okay, for example, chapter 95. And you search for it, and then you have, so do not need to type in the CAP, but you just try to type 95 will do. Okay, so what is meant by fire hazard? Some keywords like fire service installation, etc. Okay, and of course, if you try to search for another one, chapter 1, 2, 3, And then the buildings ordinance will pop out. Okay, buildings ordinance. I want to enlarge it, but it cannot be enlarged. Anyway, you can access to these for information. Now, so some legislation, like the fire happened in the factory, okay, in Aberdeen, caused 40 people died or injured, okay, in 1984. So this led to the enactment of Section 9 of the Fire Service Ordinance, which tried to make the blocking of the escape routes an offense, okay, should not block the evacuation route and keep it clear. 1986, the fur factory fire in Kwaichong, 14 people died and 8 injured. So after that, the Occupational Safety and Health Council Ordinance lead to increase in factory inspection. And besides, they tried to set up new units in the Labor Department so as to have the industrial safety being promoted. Okay, Chung Heng Mansion Guest House, 1988. Okay, the tourists died. And also the guest house. Okay, so this enacted the Hotel and Guest House Accommodation Ordinance, which is about 3 years later, okay, after 1988. Okay, private mahjong clubhouse fire. 6 people died and 24 people being injured. Okay, so you have the Club Safety of Premises Ordinance to be enacted a year later. Bed space, okay, especially many people live in those bed space. Okay, 7 people died, 56 injured. So the enactment of the bed space apartment ordinance in 1994. Shekidney Bank fire, okay, 12 people died. So the fire safety in commercial premises in 1997 have been applied to some premises, which is similar to banks in shopping arcade, okay, and also the Occupational Safety and Health Ordinance being applied to all the workplaces, okay. Closer to the dates, 1996, commercial building fire, Gali building, okay, 41 people died and 81 people injured. Okay, so in fact, this led to a consultation paper on fire safety commercial premises ordinance. Okay, so it extends to protect all the commercial premises and buildings. Okay, so the Gali building fire occurred in the 1996. Okay, and it is one of the most or the worst and deadliest skyscraper fire in Hong Kong. Okay, in fact, welding was reviewed as the source of fire in the lift shaft. Okay, it ignites the combustibles and try to have the smoke and flame spread to 13th story. Okay, and cause suffocation of the people, okay, and lead to death of them. 1997, Tsim Sha Tsui Karaoke Top 1 club fire, okay. 70 people died, and in fact, the fire was due to a revenge from the trial gang. And they throw the Molotov cocktail at the stairs, which blocked the evacuation route. And also, smoke spread along the karaoke bar. As you may know, some of you may know, the karaoke boxes are are closely packed and have long corridors. Okay, it is maze-like, so it may be difficult to find the evacuation routes once you are inside the maze-like structure. Okay, so most of the people also died due to suffocation. They get fainted and lost consciousness. Consultation paper on licensing control of the karaoke establishments was published in 1998, several months, nearly a year later. So it further proposed the karaoke establishment bill, okay, which now actually we have the karaoke licensing regulation, the chapter 573, okay, the ordinance. Now, several major fires involves commercial and residential buildings, result in deaths and injuries. Okay, Meifu Sunchun fire, the Golden Court fire, and the Onheng building fire, okay, lead to different numbers of deaths. Okay, so the Fire Safety Buildings Ordinance, Chapter 572, was enacted. Closer to year 2010 or year 2012, we have Fa Yun Street fire. Okay, 9 people died, and it led to amendments of the Fire Safety Buildings Ordinance 572, and more focus have been paid to older buildings. Okay, not only commercial or residential, but industrial building also have fire occurred. 2016, the 4-alarm fire swept through the industrial buildings. The alarm fire depends on the number of fire engine or the number of firemen which is on duty for fighting the fire. This fire lasted for 4 days, 108 hours, which also led to the death of 2 firemen, which is very sad. Okay, residential building, 16-story new lucky house. At least 5 people died and dozens was injured. You notice there are many subdivided flats in these buildings or older buildings, which lead to high-risk homes. And in fact, eradication have to be considered. Now, for the local regulations, we have laws, we have ordinance, regulations, codes of practice, standards, etc. Okay, so for different types, okay, they may have different coverage. Okay, for example, we may have some formal legal rules which govern a region. Some legislation are making laws and the laws themselves to be processed. Okay, code of practice, some guidelines and standards for best practice. Okay, etc. Okay, so for the government, we have the laws of Hong Kong, different ordinance and subsidiary legislation. Under the ordinance, we have some regulations, usually, which is the subsidiary legislation. For the code of practice, it may not be statutory, that is non-statutory tools, which gives some guidelines and standards, okay, which helps the professionals or the organization to comply with the legal regulations and requirements. They also provide detailed instructions or detailed descriptions as later you will know specifications of fire hydrant and hose reel systems will be listed in the code of practice. Okay. And further, we have some standards. Okay, the British standards, the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA. Okay, which is the acronym of National Fire Protection Association. China standards. Okay, and there are contracts, standards, design guides, engineering practice, and specifications. Now, in slide 20, the laws of Hong Kong under Hong Kong legislation available from this site. Okay, I've shown you earlier. Okay, so you type in or search for legislation, it will pop out. So you enter the chapter name, the CAP 95 123 502. Okay, it will generate ordinance and the detailed description of the ordinance and the subsidiary legislation in the website. Okay, so you can get reference to them. Now, for Chapter 95, Fire Services Ordinance, usually the Fire Services Department will administer or try to be responsible for the Fire Services Ordinance. This covers some of the active fire services installations. For example, the hose reel, fire alarms, okay, through the code of practice for minimum fire services installation and equipment, and inspection, testing, maintenance, and installation and equipment. This is consisting of two codes of practice. One is on the minimum fire services installation equipment, and other is inspection, testing, maintenance, and installation equipment. So they are prescriptive, okay, which relates to the imposition of enforcement of the rules being established as long-standing custom. Okay, some minimum requirements are also based on the sizes and usage of the premises. So the installations are tested annually, okay, once every 12 months by registered fire services installation contractor. Okay, so copy of certificate will be sent to FSD. Okay, so FSD is acronym. Besides, the Fire Services Ordinance make better provisions to the constitution, duties, and power of the FSD. Try to prevent the fire hazard, register the fire service contractor, and also control the sale, supply, installation, repair, maintenance, etc. of the equipment and installation related to fire safety. Now, Fire Services Ordinance has many subsidiary legislations, regulations. We have 95A, which is related to installation contractor. B is related to installation and equipment. Okay, C, D, E, F, okay, have different reference on welfare fund, fire hazard abatement, etc. Now, there are some terms, duties, and responsibility being defined in the chapter. So we will not go through the details, but you know that they have the rights or power to fix the installations, like the fire hydrant, emergency water supply location plates, etc. They may also consider damage being done, okay, after fire occurs. False alarm, okay, it will give an alarm of fire which he knows to be false, with guilty of an offense and a fine of some dollars or money and in prison for a duration. So some people will try to play the horse play and not serious enough to cause the false fire alarm. Okay. Now for the installation contractor, okay, there are different classes of registered contractor and they have minimum qualifications to be registered. For example, class 1, okay, they are fit to install, maintain, and repair and inspect the FSI. FSI is another acronym for fire service installation. Okay. And they contain electrical circuits, okay, have detection and warning, etc. Class 2, piping and fittings, fire extinguishing medium with water or others. Class 3, portable extinguishers or equipment. Okay. The portable extinguisher with water, foam, carbon dioxide, or even sand bucket, etc. Now, for the installation and equipment regulations, okay, we have no services installation shall be installed in premises other than registered contractor. Okay, so only registered fire service installation contractor are allowed to install or try to maintain or repair, okay, the fire service installations. Owner of the FSI, okay, keep in efficient working order all the times. Make sure that they're available. No, say, blockage or water is always fill up the pipe work in wet pipe system. And the gate is not closed or the valve is not closed. Registered contractor at least once every 12 months to have the inspection. Now for the reports and certification, this refers to the issue of reports and certs. Okay, we have these 95, okay, related to fire service installation. Chapter 123 is buildings ordinance. Okay, now for buildings, it is ministered by buildings department. Remember there is an S here. BD. Okay, you may be familiar with this acronym. Discovered passive design, which is more related to the structural design, means of escape, the fire resisting construction, FRC. Means of escape is MOE. Means of access, MOA. So these three aspects always related to the passive building design. Okay, so they are undertaken by BD for enforcement, authority person certify the works according to regulations. Now, there are some subsidiary legislation, okay, A to H, I to P, which covers lots of areas, okay, from administration, construction, demolition, escalator, planning, refuge storage, okay, sanitary fitments, plumbing, okay. I remember that when I worked on the design project in my first degree, I based on the building sanitary fitments regulation to check the number of wash closet, water closet, and the basins, urinals, etc., to see the number of male and female allowed in the premises. Whether the fitment number can suit the needs of the occupant. Okay. We also have the ventilation or ventilating systems, emergency efficiency, minor works, inspection and repair. Okay. Now, these 16 sections define responsibility of the authorized person, and they try to regulate the construction industry. Administration, it's about the submission and approval procedures for the building plans. Okay. And for the construction, it relates to the FRC, fire resisting construction. Okay. So some non-combustible materials, okay, or the materials used in building works with criteria listed clearly. Okay. So in the future, if you need to refer to the laws of Hong Kong, go to e-legislation for more details. Okay. I will not spend extra times to read through a sentence, but in case you need to refer to, for example, the construction regulations, you know where to find it. Okay, that is 123B. Now, for the section statement 90, okay, it mentioned that every building shall be designed and constructed to inhibit the spread of fire, okay, and provide resistance to the spread of fire and smoke, and stability, okay. So this, in fact, related to the three criteria as mentioned earlier. Stability is one of them, okay. Fire spread resistance, fire resisting construction, and also inhibit the fire spread by dividing the compartment in the building premises into compartment. That is the compartmentation. Okay. Okay. Building planning regulations, the fire service notes, lighting, ventilation, means of access and escape. Okay. For the means of escape, it's not just only mention the evacuation routes, but exceeding certain story or in about the height of the level above ground or point of discharge. Okay, what steps or what criteria have to be satisfied? Access for firemen. Okay, adequate number of firemen with equipment and protected adequately from fire and smoke. Firemen's lift. Okay, so fireman lifts, the standard wordings is one single fireman, fireman's lift. Adequate size and sized door. Okay, even the lift of door have to be mentioned. So it is quite detailed, detailedly described. Lift well. Okay, lift well. Firemen use the lift adequately protected from smoke or fire, especially when leaving the lift. Okay, so lift shaft may be one of the means to allow the smoke to travel vertically through the floors. Okay, so we may need to pay attention to that. Fireman lifts, also long list of description. Firefighting and rescue staircases. Okay, also every building exceeding a certain criteria and also exceeding different number of stories. The cubicle extent have been mentioned. Okay, no part of the building in the building or basement more than 60 meters from the stairway. Okay, cannot be too far away. Okay, so 41C is related to firefighting and rescue stairways. Now, Chapter 123J, ventilation system. Okay, this allows or provide guidance for the construction of ventilation systems in the building. So it complies with regulations that the smoke from the fire cannot be spread to other compartments. For example, there may be dampers, okay, smoke damper, or fire dampers with fusible link, okay, which will cut off or which will prevent the spread of smoke traveling from one location to another. Such damper usually will be installed when we have the passage through the partitions or walls or vertically through the floors, okay, floor, wall, or ceiling, okay. Operate up to 69 degrees Celsius, okay, similar to the red bulb. We have 68 degrees for the red bulb sprinkler, but this is referring to the say dampers. Now 123K oil storage insulation, L is for the appeal. Okay, so this for the buildings ordinance. How about chapter 172, places of public entertainment? Okay, so there are different locations. It also defines what is meant by places of public entertainment in the ordinance. Okay, so it's building, erection, or structure that temporarily or permanently accommodating the public, okay, with public entertainment present. So all parts of the premise, fittings, apparatus, for example, the seating, door fastening and notice, lighting, electrical, cooling, ventilation, mechanical, and other insulation should be maintained at all times in good order and good condition. Of course, approved by licensing authorities. So it also relates to the maintenance and alteration, okay, under control of the housing authority, building authority. The wall linings may be made up of soft wood or other inflammable materials. Decorations, partitions shall not be used, okay, in any part or the cavity. Now, 502, chapter 502 relates to fire safety commercial premises. Now, for this commercial premises, okay, we have the introduction to Fire Safety Commercial Premises Ordinance 2009. The purpose is to provide better protection from the risk of fire to the occupant and the users in commercial premises. So what does it mean by commercial premises or buildings? Okay, so they contain some levels, including basement or underground parking facilities or areas for the purpose of office, business, trades, and entertainment. Okay, so these are some of the areas regarding as commercial premises or commercial buildings. Some usage like hotel, okay, kindergarten, schools, hospital, car park, elderly house, home, residential care homes for the elderly, factories and industrial undertaking. Okay, go down utilities with power stations, cinema and theaters also belongs to the commercial premises. Okay, so it considered with the application and also with some description on how this not regarded as having the display of the requirements, etc. So there are some schedule which includes the fire safety measures to be complied with by the owners. Okay, for example, install the sprinkler system, cut off devices for the mechanical ventilation. So as you know, the oxygen is one of the basis for a fire to occur and continue, we usually cut off the mechanical fans or ventilation systems so as not to encourage the fire to grow with additional oxygen supply. Shopping arcade, okay, emergency lighting, facilitates evacuation of the premises so that the people know where to go and follow the routes. Manual fire alarm and alerts the occupant, visitors, and others. Now, we also have construction requirements. Okay, this relate to, say, code of practice. Now, here, mention 3 codes of practice, which is actually replaced by the Code of Practice for Fire Safety in Buildings 2011, okay, by the Buildings Department. Okay, before that, we have the provision of means of escape in case of fire. We have the COP for fire resisting construction and means of access for firefighting. So originally, they are separated into 3 booklets, but now it is combining to the one and including the fire safety management, including the fire engine approach. Okay. Now, Schedule 3 relates to the provision of fire safety or fire service installation and equipment. Okay. We have the description. I do not go through or read it, but you know where to find the requirements if needed in the future. Now, slide 72, which is chapter 572, Fire Safety Buildings Ordinance. So this helps to provide fire safety provision to the occupant and also the user, visitors, okay, including composite buildings. Okay, so it also defined the meaning of composite, for example, including the domestic part, commercial part, etc. So this ordinance tried to allow the director of buildings to be the enforcement authority to plan, design, and have the construction of the composite buildings. And also, the Director of Fire Services, that is the FSD Director, is the enforcement authority to the fire service installations. Okay, now we have the local code of practice. Now for section 4, mainly the local code of practice are issued by the Buildings Department and the Fire Services Department. Okay, for the Buildings Department, we have the Code of Practice for Fire Safety in Buildings, 2011. Okay, and for the Fire Services Department, we have the Code of Practice for Minimum Fire Service Installation and Equipment. Okay, this is one of them. Another is inspection, testing, and installation of equipment, the second one. From time to time, we have the circular letter being issued. Okay, so that we have updates and modifications. Here shows the Code of Practice for Fire Safety in Buildings, 2011. If you go to the website, in fact, you can access to the COP by BD. Okay, codes, design manuals, and guidelines. Of course, you can go to the Buildings Department to find the codes of practice resources, codes design also. Okay, so but the search engine is so convenient nowadays that you type in the correct keywords, it will generate some relevant and useful information and booklets. The buildings Ordinance 2024 edition, the latest. Okay, there are actually 7 editions. Latest one is September 2024, just a year ago. So there are contents which include several parts: introduction, means of escape. We also have fire-resisting construction. That's the 3rd part. Means of access, which is for firefighting and rescue, with firemen lifts, firefighting rescue staircases. Part E is the fire property of the building materials and elements and components. For example, some of them are load-bearing and some of them are non-load-bearing. Okay, so whether it can stand without collapse to bear the loads, which is the weight inserted on them. Part number F. Part F should be, not the 6th part. Okay, fire safety management. Okay, this is one of the important sections related to this subject. Of course, legislation aspects of fire safety management. So exactly the wordings. So in fact, you notice that there are 3 plans. The maintenance plan, the training plan, and the fire action plan. Okay. So later, throughout subject and lectures, we will go through them. Sample checklist for the housekeeping is also in the appendix. Guidelines on fire engineering is the 7th part. Okay, annex. So originally, there are 3 separate books or code of practice. Back in 1996, 1995. Okay, this one is 2004, but still outdated. So we based on this one. Sorry, the latest version should be September 2024. Okay, you may update this one. Now for the red book, okay, which is the FSI code. FSI code is published or administered by the Fire Services Department. Okay, consists of 2 parts, as I've mentioned. The first part is on the minimum. Okay, so it is the minimum standard that at least you need to provide these installations in the and the equipment in the premises. Of course, over provision is allowed. Okay, provided with justification, of course. The second part is inspection, testing, and maintenance of the installations. Okay, available at the FSD website. So again, if you quickly go through the web for information, FSD Hong Kong, COP. Okay, it will pop up. Okay, if you find to try to search is under fire protection, circular letter, code of practice, and notice. Now, in fact, circular letter is also useful. I will explain it later. Code of practice, technical guidance is also important nowadays. Code of practice, you click it and then you can get the version without any cost, free of charge. Okay. So in the code of practice, FSI code, okay, it's already the 13th revision 2 years ago. 3 years ago. And there are two parts. This is the first part with 5 sections. The second code of practice for inspection testing have 3 parts. Okay, there are some appendixes, testing and commissioning checklists for various systems. Okay, so it shows with definition, etc. Okay, circular letter. Now, as you notice, the revision of the code of practice is not every year, but maybe 4 years apart. Where is it? So even the 12th revision to the 13th revision is 10 years apart. So you may ask, what if there are some updates? How can the people know? Okay, so circular letter helps. They may have the say the requirements published from time to time as circular letter. So this circular letter are also available from the web. Let me see. Circular letters, list of FSD circular letter. Okay, the updated one is the annual inspection checklist for fire detection system. So if you click it, okay, you get the FSD licensing and certification command. Okay, number 42025 is the 4th one in year 2025, dated 30th June, year 2025. Okay, so completion of the checklist for the annual inspection. This is not artificial intelligence, okay? Annual inspection, AI, of the fire detection system. So the duty and responsibility of the registered fire service installation contractor, okay, take effective on today, the 1st of September. Okay, so there are checklists for the detections, and if you scroll down, you can get checklists for different systems, fire detection alarm systems. You have others like annual inspection checklists for different aspects being covered. Okay, which is a long list. Now, within the FSI code, there are lists of systems, installation, and equipment. For example, in alphabetical order, audio visual advisory system, okay, which have given the visual, you can see it. Audio is the people can hear it, okay, because some people may not be able to see or hear, okay, so then depends on the audio and the visual advisory system. We also have the fire hydrant and hosiery system, and fireman lift, also mentioned in these active fire service installations. Now for the system definition, fire hydrant and hosiery systems have been mentioned, which is installation of pipes, tank, pumps, outlets, hydrant outlet, and hose reel. Okay, so this lists the components. Okay, for example, if you have the water tank, you need to have the pump set, to deliver the water to the hydrant outlets. Okay. Sometimes industrial go down building is 3 outlets. Okay. You have 3 outlets. So you have the bore valve from the government main. Okay. This gives you a rough sketch. Okay. And provide readily means with jet of water. So the firemen, when arrived, they may get water from the hydrant and put out the fire. Okay. So every part or any part of the building should be covered. For example, the hose reel, we have the 30-meter hose tubing, okay, which be able to cover 30 meter, smaller than or equal to 30 meter. Okay. Another one is the sprinkler system. So it is designed to discharge water. Okay. Seems that no sprinkler, but actually there are concealed type of sprinklers. There's a cover, which have the diffusible link when attain certain degree Celsius, it will melt and then drop, and then the sprinkler heads with the quartz bulb will be exposed to heat, and when sufficient high temperature is reached, the bulb will shatter and discharge water. Okay, so it is under pressure, so always fill up with water and with the jockey pump to maintain the water pressure. Heads, which are also acting as detecting device at or near the point of origin. So if a fire occurs on this table, the first sprinkler activated will probably be this one, okay? Not the one at the back, until the heat is large enough to spread to the end of the theater, then the sprinkler may be activated, okay? But with the entrainment of cool air, the hot gas may be cooled down already when it's spread to the far end. It also sounds the alarm, okay? Now, classification of premises. We have commercial building. We have composite building. Remember, we've mentioned composite building earlier. 2 or more for the purpose of domestic, commercial, institutional, and hotel. Okay. Either A and B or ABC or BD or AC, etc. So 2 or more combination. Curtain wall building, okay, a non-loading bearing wall fixed in the front of structural frame. Domestic building is for habitation, where we live in. Now, let me see. Requirements for the premises. For example, if we have a domestic high-rise building, high-rise is referring to the heights of the building. Above ground discharge level is greater than 30 meter. Okay. If it is for residential purpose, domestic, we need to have the following 7 provisions. No sprinkler is required. Okay. Hydrant and hose reel are required. Alarm, exit signs, emergency lighting, emergency generator, fireman lift, portable extinguishers. So we usually do not find sprinkler heads, or it is not must, or it is not the minimum requirement as stated in the code. So high-rise building also had additional requirements. For example, the line of acoustic, thermal insulation, lining for acoustic thermal insulation, and decorative purpose. Now, I've mentioned specification. Specification is the description of the requirements of the systems in more details. For example, sprinkler system. We've mentioned that it shall be designed and installed according to the Loss Prevention Council rules. for automatic sprinkler installations, which further incorporate British Standard BS, European Standard EN 12845, with suitable modification pertinent to Hong Kong. Why is that needed? Okay, modification. Because the Loss Prevention Council rules, the British Standard usually applied in the European country, not locally in Hong Kong. So some modifications may be necessary. Take one example is that for the British standards, water may be available from lake or reservoirs directly to serve as a water source to extinguish the fire in the premises. But seldom in Hong Kong we have lakes, although we have reservoir, but we do not try to get water directly from the reservoir to fight fires in our home or in the premises. Okay, so this is one of the modification needed. Loss Prevention Council is the LPC. You may have heard that before, LPC rules, Loss Prevention Council. Okay, acceptance testing and maintenance. So this refers to the second part of the code. Okay, we have the inspection testing. Okay, previously we have minimum fire service installation. So it also need to have suitable modification that's pertinent to Hong Kong situation. Every 12 months, the registered fire service installation contractor, the RFSIC, registered fire service installation contractor. But whenever you use the abbreviations or acronym, try to quote or try to mention the full name first with bracket, and then afterwards you can use the acronym. Okay, no matter it is in your report or in your maybe in examination, etc. Okay, circular letter. Okay, we have go through how to get it. Technical guidance. Okay, we have 3 technical guidance which gives information about, let me see, technical guidance, which is also under circular letter of practice and notice. Okay, guidance and checklist. Here we have 3 of them. One is related to fire detection and alarm system. The other is for emergency lighting. And the third one is the sprinkler installation. So in fact, you have this technical guidance, which gives you more information about the application of LPC rules, incorporating the British standards. Okay, abbreviations, some clauses. Okay, so the clauses in the code are either not to be applicable locally, because as mentioned, their situation or the environment may be different, to be revised. Some changes have to be made, or for reference only. So it is not actually directly applicable to Hong Kong. So it is for reference. So we have these 3: fire detection alarm, emergency lighting, and sprinkler system. Practice note for authorized person, PNAP. Okay. What is that? Okay. I later answer the questions. Thank you. Some student asks in the chat box, what is the difference between BSc 532 and BSc 534 subject? Okay. Maybe I mention or talk about it later. Now, PNAP, registered structural engineer and registered geotechnical engineers by buildings department. Okay, under BD, we have the PNAP, and also PNRC, registered contractor. Okay, so there are some notes, practice note, which is for different parties. Okay, practice notes for authorized person, registered structural engineer, and geotechnical engineers. This is for registered contractors. Okay, we just have two more sections, but noted the time. Maybe another short break, 5 minutes, for you to relax a bit and refresh a bit. It's 20:42 according to my clock. Okay, 5 minutes. If you have any question, you can ask me. Thank you. Okay. Let me finish the PowerPoint slides first. Okay. Okay. Other other Cook standards referred in local regulations. Now, for example, we have the British standards, and we have for example, 5306 Part 4, which is related to the fire extinguishing installation and equipment on premises, mainly for carbon dioxide system. Okay, firefighting system 13565 Part 2 is foam. Okay, related to foam. But we have also have guide for selection of the installations, the Loss Prevention Council Technical Bulletin, fire extinguishing installation with commissioning and maintenance of portable extinguishers. Okay, so these are some of Cook's and standards that related to the fire local regulations. Further, we may have the powder system. We have the fire detection alarm system. British Standard 5839 Part 1, it's more commonly used. Okay, or even the technical guidance, we may refer to this, if I remember correctly. Let me have a quick look at that. And we have the 5839 Part 3, which is the automatic release mechanism of the fire protection system. Okay, and some regulations related to FRC, fire resisting construction. FRC. Okay, we have the building construction regulations. We have the British Standard 476, different parts, okay, which is for different methods of determination of the fire resistance, which, for example, we have the elements of construction. We have the elements, load-bearing elements of construction, non-load-bearing elements for construction, and different method to determine the fire resistance of the ventilation ducts. Now, other statutory regulations and requirements related to fire safety. For the regulations to waterworks, okay, chapter 102, Waterworks Ordinance, the WWO. Okay, Hong Kong Waterworks Standard Requirements for the plumbing and installations, Water Supplies Department, approval and certification by WA Water Authority, and the certificate. Okay, so we also have the lifts and escalator. Okay, we have code of practice to design and construct of the lifts and escalators. Electrical installation, chapter 406. And some of the code of practice for electricity wiring regulations by EMSD, Electrical and Mechanical Services Department. Power Supply Company, the Hong Kong Electric Company Limited, China Light and Power, CLP. Okay. For the transformer switch rooms, we may have the gas flooding system. Okay. Water may not be usually suitable for as the extinguishing medium, but we may have different gases. Some of you may have learned those systems in the subject BSc 532, fire engineering systems before, or well, in next semester. So in fact, in the chat, a student asks what is the difference between this subject and the fire engineering system subject. So for the fire engineering system subject, it described the active fire protection system mainly. And of course, when you describe the active fire service installation, you also mention about some rules and regulations governing. Okay, but for this subject, fire safety management related with the legislation aspects of fire safety management, it is the regulations, legislation, codes of practice, which govern the maintenance and staff training and fire actions plans for the premises. Okay, so they are different. Okay, that is also why we have separate subjects. So okay, back to here. Comments from power supply companies, inspectors' drawings for approval by these two power supply company, and as fitted drawings, okay, being provided. And other codes related to fire safety, we may have the Labor Department with factories and industrial undertaking ordinance. Because fire safety for industrial plants are described, the Radiation Board for medical and health department, because smoke detector installation and storage is related. Okay. Again, in response to the chat, he or she mentioned that the coverage by the detector, you need to specify whether it is a heat detector or whether it is a smoke detector. So for heat detector, it may be 5.3 meter in radius coverage, whereas smoke detector, it's 7.5 meter. Okay, so I hope I can answer your questions. We also have EPD, Environmental Protection Department, which consider the emission of flue gas from the diesel emergency generator. The Education Department helps to guide or teach the school's laboratory with firefighting equipment. Civil Aviation Authority with helipads, the helicopters landed in the helipads. Hong Kong Telecom, direct telephone line connected to FSCC, Fire Service Communication Center. We have another acronym. Okay. We also have Insurance Association. Okay. So these are some references that you may refer to. And well, before I continue to mention about others, I would like you to take a look at the library orientation. By the way, do you have any question related to the lectures notes today? No? Not at the moment? You need time to absorb and digest? Maybe you try to go through it at home and see if you have any questions next time. You can ask me or send me emails. Okay. Now, for the library orientation, I noted that postgraduate orientation, you still have a chance to attend it the 6th of September. Okay. So it is hybrid, afternoon 2:30 to 3:15. I think you may get some information on how to have the online, for example, database I used to introduce to students. So if you go to the PolyU library, you choose database, for example, S. We have the Science Citation Index or the Science Direct. Okay, so you access through the SSO login. Some of you may have learned this before, but some of you who especially are new to the program, they try to search for some articles, journal articles, or book chapters through the Science Direct. Wonder if fire safety management will be one of the terms that have the relevant information. Okay, fire safety management with a book. And we also have the fire safety management, tunnel fire safety management. Okay, we have another one under fire safety journals. Okay, we have eco-friendly textile. Okay, fire safety on personal temperature management. Okay, so you may also highlight or be more specific in your search to find relevant information. Okay, so this is one of the reference you can get. Another one, let me see. We have the IEE, and we have also some British standards. British standard, ISO standard can be available. Okay, so you search online. Can have search for different standards. One, the BSCN 245 is available. Okay, BSCN 12845, 2015, okay, which is the version that is, so it takes some time to generate it. Well, you can get reference to different British standards available here. I also want to mention about the Gen AI and the poly-use stance. Okay, the university stance is that takes an open and forward-looking stance on the use of Gen AI tools as positive creative force in education. Okay, so in the assignments, you are allowed to use Gen AI tools, but try to declare the content is not well directly copied or have the plagiarism, but have tactfully use the Gen AI tools to help you on different say assignments. For example, you have it. How can I use Gen AI tools in the assignment? You may try to brainstorm generating idea, but do not rely on solely or only on the generated content. Always verify and cross-reference. You need to quote the reference clearly. Check factual accuracy, okay? And use Gen AI content in conjunction with other sources. Include any assistance in reference list, okay? So I think not only the knowledge you gain, but also the ethics or the practice that one use in doing assignments or in performing your work is important. Okay. So this is what I want to mention. And there is a video. This is I refer to the first 6 minutes only. Okay, maybe I can give you the link and view it later. Okay, the first 6 minutes refers more on the generation of fire, for example, the fire triangle, and how the people evacuate from fire, and how to tackle a fire and use correct extinguisher, which is the last 6 minutes. Of course, you can try to go through it on at home, okay, and maybe let me see if I have any other important things to mention. Okay. Um, some of the methods or techniques may be simple, but usually it is forgotten by the people. And whether real implementation of the fire safety management strategies is a question mark. Okay. We may have well-written plans, but the strategies may not be really implemented or carried out. So if a fire occur and that will be too late to compensate or too late to blame anyone. Okay. So in the assignment, I'm also trying to let you have, for example, your workspace or find some organization to see how the fire safety management plan can be carried out properly. Okay. But of course, the details will be given to you in week 3, as I've mentioned. Okay. Do you have any questions? We still have 15 minutes. Okay. So in fact, the topics covered, okay, mainly you can see related to the standards and fire safety management as the topic of the subjects illustrate. So another popular or advanced subject is the performance-based fire codes. Okay, so it depends on various situation, not only the codes that we have mentioned and we have gone through today or tonight, which you can see, for example, circular letter, this is the codes. Have a brief go through of the requirements further for the code of practice by the fire services department. Okay, here you notice that the classification of premises is clearly listed. Okay, but the requirements listed, for example, the system installation and equipment for the aircraft maintenance repair facilities are these 18th elements or these 18 systems. Okay, so it is quite fixed, okay, as the minimum requirement. Besides, you may also notice that, for example, if we look at the commercial building, commercial high-rise building, for example, Okay, so these 16 elements or 16 systems will be related, but you notice that it mentioned, for example, the first one, audio-visual advisory system. It is for any parts of the building where the area occupied by one single occupancy of the floor exceeding 2,000 square meters. It is quite prescriptive, okay? And where the occupants, due to their transient presence, because they are not familiar with the environment, as shoppers, audience, and guests are exposed to the risk with additional advice required. For example, karaoke establishment, we have the music and videos playing. And during the fire, those video should be cut off. And instead, with some procedures pre-recorded for people or the occupants to be taken during fires will be played. Okay. We also have, for example, sufficient directional signs. Okay. And actuating points for the pump set of the fire hydrant and hose reels. And we also have the required for the sprinkler systems. Okay. So during the lecture in week 3, we will go through it in more details. Okay. So any other questions? Not at the moment. If not, maybe we stop here. And if you have any questions, you are welcome to ask further. Okay. So it's still the first day of the semester and the academic year. So wish you all fruitful and joyful and blessed new academic year ahead. Okay. So have a good night and see you next week. Okay. Bye-bye.